Today's presentation is on news apps. So there are plenty of benefits to getting your news through mobile apps. They're much easier to bring with you. You just have to bring your phone than a whole newspaper. Some apps will just give you summaries of stories, so you don't have to read full articles to stay in the loop. Some apps will also give you push notifications when there's an interesting story or a breaking story. And some apps conglomerate news sources into one app so you can get your news from a variety of sources. Another benefit not mentioned here is that it saves on paper. If you access your news subscription through your phone, you can cancel your print subscription, which is eco-friendly. So there are a few different kinds of news application. The first is a specific app like the New York Times app. The second is the conglomerating apps like Google News and Apple News. These give you headlines from different news sources. And the third is a summary app like the Skim, which summarizes articles for you so you don't have to read the full thing. One of the benefits of these apps is how customizable they are. Many apps will offer you the option of customizing which news outlets and which topics they notify you about, or they show you when you open the app. Many apps have online exclusive content. This is more applicable to, say, the New York Times or the Washington Post. The Post, for example, publishes 500 stories a day, and they can't print all of those. Apps also have more interactive features that you can't get from a physical newspaper. The New York Times, for example, has lots of interactive features. Their COVID tracker, their election tracking, they have more artistic styling on the apps for some of their articles in more recent years. And then the conglomerating apps give you all different mediums in one, or actually all of them, all different mediums in one place. You can have video that you can't get on your print paper, maybe some more images, some audio content that you can't get in a printed paper. And these also apply to the website, not just the mobile app for a lot of these apps. So the New York Times, for example, the website and the app are functionally the same, just one's on your phone. Most major newspapers have apps. So Washington Post, New York Times, LA Times. If you're already a subscriber to the physical paper, odds are that you have online access as well. If you're not a subscriber, you can get an online-only subscription to these. You can also, the New York Times, for example, you can subscribe to specific things such as their crosswords, their cooking, the recipes, just their games. So the New York Times has other games that aren't the crossword that are a separate subscription, or the all access subscription, which is the crossword, the news, the cooking, everything, some of their affiliated papers, all of that in one subscription. If you prefer to vary your news sources, there are lots of apps that will pick stories for you from different sources. These apps are a great way to widen your perspective. So papers that lean a certain direction politically, papers that focus more generally on a certain topic, local news sources that will give you the news for your area, but not necessarily everything you're going to want to know. These apps are very useful if you just want the news and you don't want to pay for, a subscription to, say, New York Times, or you don't want to have to go around to all these websites to see the headlines. The headlines will be brought straight to one place. Google News is a great example of this. It comes pre-installed on most Android devices. It's fairly simple. It gives you top 5 stories, which change throughout the day. It'll give you occasional push notifications if you don't turn those off. Stories that its algorithm thinks that you'll like. It gives worldwide news, local news, things you're interested in, and everything in between. It has a feature called full coverage, where when a specific issue is in the news or a specific story is breaking, it will try to pull articles from different like sources that have different political lean, so that you're not just getting your own your own preferred source's opinion. You're getting opinions from up and down the spectrum. You can also subscribe to specific sources within the app, and that tells the Google News, hey, I want to see more New York Times, or I want to see more of my favorite sports team. Then Google News will give you the major updates from your sports team, or will give you the major New York Times articles, or whichever website you've chosen. Apple News is mostly the same, except it comes pre-installed on Apple devices and is exclusive to Apple devices. Works pretty much the same as Google News. Headlines are free. You can subscribe to different sources to get them all in one place. Inkle is a similar app. It does not come pre-installed. You would have to go download it, but it's available on all Android and Apple devices. It is a monthly subscription package, and it gives you content from Washington Post, The Guardian, The Economist, and more, some of which you would normally have to pay for but are included in the subscription. They also have a prepaid option, which is 10 cents per article with the same sources as their regular subscription. And this way, if you don't hit the subscriber amount, you're not paying for what you're not using. AP, Associated Press, their app will give you all of AP's stories. Their writers are affiliated with particular papers, but will write freelance for AP. AP is great because it gives all the confirmed facts with no opinions, and tries to cover everything that's happening in the world. I mean, not local things, but all the important worldwide and national issues. And it, like Google News, Apple News, and Inkle, you can follow your favorite topics and your favorite affiliated papers. The next few apps are summary apps. So this is for if you don't want to read whole articles regularly, if you just want to be kept in the loop more than the headlines, but less than taking time to read full articles. Some give brief summaries of latest news. Some allow you to save stories to come back to. One such example is the Skim. It was designed by and for people with shortened attention spans. Creates daily, short, digestible summaries of news, relevant news. Any summary, you can click through and get additional information, expand, see what was omitted if you're interested, and the app will update throughout the day with new stories. You can also just subscribe to their email newsletter, which gives you a daily briefing of the news. You don't even need an app for that. You can just send that straight to your email inbox on your computer. TLDR World News. TLDR is an internet acronym for millennials and my generation. Stands for too long didn't read. So TLDR World News summarizes news in 3 sentences. No photos, just 3 sentences. It will take news from different sources to try to diversify as much as it can within those 3 sentences. But you can always take a link to the original story to get more information. But again, the app will just bare bones, this is what happened, 3 sentences. Pocket is a third of these summary apps. Its idea is that you find articles you're interested on the go and you save them to read later when you have time. Like many apps, it integrates with the share button on your phone, so you can share it directly to your texts, to your Facebook, Twitter, whatever social media app, whatever WhatsApp would you use to communicate if you don't use text. And you can save stuff for all devices and have them all in one place, a lot like the watch later feature on YouTube. If you're out on your phone, you say, oh, this is an interesting story, I want to read it when I get home. You can then just open up your computer, go to your Pocket account, and it will have everything that you saved earlier, previous days. There is a webinar in the past on Read It Later apps. We will put the link to this presentation in the chat, and the link to that presentation is in this one, on this slide, where it says click here. Some other news apps, CBC and CTV in Canada, CNN and News On in the US. They have apps, BuzzFeed News, Microsoft News. There are so many different apps for so many different newspapers, magazines, TV channels, websites, more like the ones that we talked about, the summary or conglomerating ones. There's so many options. So if you're getting too many notifications or no notifications from your apps and you would like to have a little push notification pop up on your phone for breaking news and such, you can enable and disable these notification settings on your phone. So this is how you do it on an iPhone. You open up settings, go to notifications. You pick the app that you would like to receive or stop receiving notifications from. You go to specifically notification settings, not just the general settings for the app, and you can enable or disable lots of different categories. For more popular apps or better funded apps, better funded papers, it will be split into many different categories. Smaller apps might only give you a couple categories to enable and disable. So now I'm going to share my phone screen. So on Android, if you go to notifications, then app settings to see individual apps, you can then find the one you want. So let's say New York Times here. If you long press on it, it will take you to the New York Times settings screen. In this top bar here, you can just turn on or off all notifications from New York Times. But then under other, you can see the different categories. And it shows you about how many notifications you will expect to receive per day. So if I wanted breaking news but not top stories, I could just disable top stories by clicking on it and then turning off show notifications. I could also say, if I wanted top stories to play my notification tone or vibrate when there's a notification, then I could change it from silent to default. And there's a whole bunch of other settings that are a bit more complicated. And you can see also on this summary page, you can see that morning briefing has a bell icon, which means that will vibrate or play the notification noise if my phone isn't silenced. But the rest will default to silent notifications. So I actually want to turn that off. I want my morning briefing to be completely silent. So now I'm going to go to the New York Times app itself and show that off a little bit. So on the front page is the main stories. You can see this one says live, which means that it is being updated as they get information. This is most common when there's a major sporting event or when there's, say, an election on an election day or a major breaking story, such as this. If you scroll across, if you pull down from the top, it'll reload. That's not what I meant to do. Get it a second time accidentally. If you scroll across this top bar here, you can see, oh, my phone is acting up. You can see, because there's only two. You can see the two major headlines for right now. There's only two right now, so it doesn't scroll very far. If you scroll down, it will show you other headlines for the day. If you go to For You on the bottom bar there, it will give you some recommendations, some articles it thinks you'll be interested for today. And then bottom right is sections. You can go through all the different sections the New York Times has. Let's say I wanted some science news, see what's new in the scientific community. Just click on that, and that's the science section. If you scroll to the bottom here, you will see crosswords and cooking have a little door icon with an arrow. That means that they are separate apps, the games app and the recipes app. So if I click on cooking here, it's going to take me to the Google Play Store because I don't have the cooking app installed. They do this because cooking and crossword/games are their own separate subscriptions. No, that's that.